Olivia Harmon had always been a loner. At 42, after losing her husband in an accident at the local mine, she chose to isolate herself in a cabin in the Montana mountains. The cabin, inherited from her grandfather, was far enough from the small town of Pinecrest to give her the peace she desperately needed, but close enough for a weekly trip to the market. It was spring when everything changed. Olivia was picking wild berries when she heard a sharp cry. Following the sound, she found a dead bear, likely hit by a car, and next to her a frightened cub no older than a few weeks. "Oh my God," she whispered, her heart tightening. The cub, thin and trembling, stared at its mother, not understanding why she wouldn't move. Olivia knew she should call the Forest Service. It was the right thing to do. But when the cub looked at her with those bright, terrified eyes, something broke inside her. "You lost someone too, didn't you?" she murmured. "I know how that feels." That night, she did something that would change her life forever. She brought the cub home. The town's veterinarian, Dr. Mitchell, a man in his 60s with deep wrinkles and kind eyes, shook his head when he saw what Olivia was carrying in her arms. "Have you lost your mind, Liv? That's a grizzly bear, not a dog." "He'll die out there alone, Carl. His mother's dead, just until he's strong enough." The vet sighed, recognizing that stubborn look all too well. "You know this is illegal, right? If the authorities find out." "No one's going to find out. I just need you to tell me how to take care of him, please, Carl." Reluctantly, the vet examined the cub. Male, around 2 months old. He's dehydrated and malnourished, but no major injuries that I can see. In the days that followed, Olivia learned to feed the little bear with a makeshift bottle. She named him Rusty for the reddish tint of his fur. At night, the cub slept curled up beside her, seeking warmth. In those moments when Rusty nestled against her chest, Olivia felt the void left by her husband shrink just a little. Weeks turned into months. Rusty grew quickly, already exploring the cabin and the fenced yard Olivia had built for him. Dr. Mitchell came by secretly to check on him, always warning her. "Liv, you need a plan. He already weighs 90 pounds and he's still a baby. When he's grown, I'll release him when the time is right," she'd reply, though the thought of it physically hurt her. Rusty was nearly a year old when Forest Ranger Derek Thompson showed up at her door. Tall, with stubble and suspicious eyes, he wasn't the type to take excuses lightly. "Miss Harmon, we received reports of suspicious activity on your property. Something about a wild animal." Olivia's heart pounded. "I don't know what you're talking about." Just then, a noise from the back of the house made the ranger raise an eyebrow. "Mind if I take a look?" Before she could answer, Derek was already walking toward the back of the cabin. Olivia followed, breaking into a cold sweat. In the fenced yard, Rusty stood on his hind legs, now nearly as tall as a grown man, playing with a tire hanging from a tree. "My God." Derek stopped, speechless. "Do you have any idea how serious this is?" "He would have died," Olivia tried to explain. "His mother was hit by a car. That doesn't matter. It's illegal to keep a wild animal, especially a predator. I'm going to have to report this and seize the animal." "No," Olivia cried, stepping between the ranger and Rusty. "He won't survive out there alone. He doesn't know how to hunt. He's never met another bear." "It's not your decision," Derek said firmly, pulling out his phone. At that moment, seeing the panic in his protector's eyes, Rusty let out a low growl and moved into a defensive stance. The ranger stepped back. "Control that animal, or I'll have to take drastic measures." Olivia placed her hand on Rusty's neck, calming him. "Please," she begged. "Give me some time. I can release him gradually. Teach him to survive." Derek looked at the bear, then back at the woman, seeing the genuine pain in her eyes. He let out a deep sigh. "I have a proposal," he said finally. "I work with wildlife reintroduction programs. I can help you prepare him for the wild, but you'll have to commit to letting him go when he's ready." Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she nodded. "Thank you." In the months that followed, Derek and Olivia worked together to train Rusty. The ranger came by 3 times a week, bringing gear and knowledge. They taught Rusty how to forage, recognize predators, and mark territory. An unlikely friendship formed between Olivia and Derek. He, who had first seen her as reckless, came to admire her determination. She, who had feared him as a threat, discovered an unexpected ally. "Why did you decide to help me?" she asked one afternoon, watching Rusty swim in the creek near the cabin. Derek was quiet for a moment. "My dad was a hunter. When I was 10, he killed a mother bear and brought the cub home, like a living trophy. The cub died a week later. I've never forgotten his eyes, so lost, so scared." Olivia gently touched Derek's hand. A silent understanding passed between them. The day of the release came when Rusty turned 2. Olivia had barely slept the night before, crying quietly. "Are you ready?" Derek asked when he arrived in the morning. She nodded, though nothing in her felt ready. They sedated Rusty and placed him in a large cage in the back of Derek's truck, driving for hours to a remote area of the national park. When they opened the cage, Rusty, still drowsy, looked out at the dense forest, then back at Olivia. "Go," she whispered, fighting the urge to hug him one last time. "It's okay, you're home now." The bear hesitated, looking at the two humans as if he didn't understand. "He'll be okay," Derek reassured her, placing an arm around Olivia's shoulders. "We put a tracker on him. We can monitor him." With one last look, Rusty finally turned and disappeared into the trees. Olivia's knees gave out, and Derek caught her. "Did I do the right thing?" she asked, her voice breaking. "You did," he replied. "It was the hardest thing, but it was the right thing." 3 years had passed. Olivia and Derek were now married, joining not only their lives but their shared passion for wildlife preservation. The once isolated cabin now served as a small, unofficial rehabilitation center for injured animals. Nothing permanent, just enough to stabilize them before transferring to proper facilities. One autumn night, a storm battered the mountains. Olivia was alone. Derek had traveled to a conference in Denver. A noise on the porch made her heart leap. Flashlight in hand, she opened the door and froze. Standing there, soaked by the rain, was a massive grizzly bear. Blood trickled from a wound on its side. Despite his size and age, she recognized him instantly. "Rusty." The bear let out a low moan, almost as if responding to his name. He was clearly hurt but didn't seem aggressive. Heart-pounding, Olivia called Dr. Mitchell. "I need you to come now and bring equipment to suture a large wound. I can't explain over the phone." When the vet arrived an hour later, he was stunned. Is that Rusty? How did he find his way back?" "Bears have incredible memory," Olivia explained as she helped prep the supplies. "And I think he remembers this place as safe." After sedating the animal, they found a deep wound, most likely from a gunshot. "Poachers," Dr. Mitchell muttered angrily as he stitched the injury. "Hunting season hasn't even started yet." In the days that followed, Olivia cared for Rusty with the same devotion she had years before. When Derek returned, he was in awe. "This is extraordinary," he said, watching the bear recover in the old converted barn. "It defies everything we know about animal behavior." As Rusty healed, Olivia began noticing something strange. The bear seemed restless, constantly glancing toward the forest and growling as if trying to communicate. "I think he wants us to follow him," Derek suggested after observing him for days. "Follow a wild bear into the woods? That's insane. Trust your instinct, Liv. You've always had a special connection with him." Reluctantly, but intrigued, Olivia agreed. The next morning, equipped with tranquilizer rifles, GPS, and first aid kits, they opened the barn door. "Lead the way, big guy," Derek said to the bear. To their amazement, as soon as he was released, Rusty began walking steadily into the forest, occasionally pausing to check if the humans were following. After 3 hours of trekking through dense woods, they reached an area unfamiliar to Olivia. The place looked recently devastated, trees uprooted, soil torn up by heavy machinery. "What is this?" she murmured. Derek examined the terrain, his expression dark. "Looks like mining, but there shouldn't be any authorized operations in this part of the park." Following Rusty, who now moved with even more purpose, they arrived at a hillside. Hiding behind bushes, they saw something that left them horrified. Below was an unlikely camp. Armed men patrolled while others, many appearing to be immigrants, worked in clearly dangerous conditions. extracting something from the ground. "Sapphires," Derek whispered, recognizing the blue glint of the exposed stones. "Montana has some of the world's most valuable sapphires. This must be an illegal operation using trafficked labor." Olivia felt Rusty tense beside her. Following his gaze, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A man among the workers she recognized instantly. Frank Dawson, a local politician who had always portrayed himself as an environmental advocate. "I don't believe it," she murmured. "That's Dawson. He's running for governor on a green platform." Derek pulled out his phone. "No signal. We need to head back and alert the authorities." At that moment, one of the guards looked in their direction. "Hey, someone's there!" Gunshots echoed through the forest as Olivia, Derek, and Rusty fled down the trail. One bullet struck Derek's leg, sending him to the ground. "Go!" he shouted at Olivia. "Get help!" Rusty roared, placing himself protectively between the humans and their pursuers. "I can't leave you," Olivia cried, desperate. "You have to," Derek insisted, handing her the GPS. "It's the only chance for those workers, the only chance to stop this." Heartbreaking, Olivia ran. Behind her, she heard Rusty roar again, facing off the pursuers to buy her time. After what felt like an eternity, she reached the cabin and called federal authorities. The next hours were a blur of helicopters, armed agents, and tactical operations. When she finally returned to the site with law enforcement, the scene left her devastated. Derek was alive but badly injured, having been beaten after being captured. The criminals, including Frank Dawson, were being arrested. The workers, many emaciated and showing signs of abuse, were receiving medical care. But Rusty was nowhere to be found. "He saved my life," Derek said weakly from the stretcher. "When they were about to kill me, he came out of nowhere and attacked. It gave the workers time to turn on the guards. It was incredible." For days, Olivia and search teams scoured the forest, looking for the possibly wounded bear. They found nothing. A month later, with Derek still recovering in the hospital, Olivia was called to testify at the trial of Dawson and his associates. Her story, how a bear had led her to uncover an illegal operation, captured national media attention. "Are we really supposed to believe that a wild bear consciously guided you to expose a criminal operation?" the defense attorney asked with a sneer. "I don't know what Rusty understood or didn't," Olivia replied firmly. "All I know is what he did, and the evidence speaks for itself. Over 30 people rescued from slave labor, an illegal mining operation dismantled, and a corrupt politician exposed." The case ended with the conviction of all those involved. The workers received humanitarian visas, and the area was declared a permanent environmental reserve. On the night before his hospital discharge, Derek found Olivia silently crying by his bedside. "Still thinking about him?" She nodded. "We'll never know if he survived, will we?" Derek squeezed her hand. "Maybe that's for the best. He did what he had to do. He showed us the way and protected his family, like a true guardian." The following spring, Olivia and Derek, now fully recovered, hiked through the forest to a clearing near where the illegal operation had once stood. There, they planted a small, unofficial plaque in gratitude to the guardian of the mountains. As they prepared to head back, Olivia felt a familiar chill. At the edge of the clearing, partially hidden by the trees, a massive grizzly bear watched them. For a moment that felt eternal, their eyes met. "Rusty," she whispered. The bear held her gaze for a few seconds more, then quietly turned and disappeared into the trees, returning to where he belonged, free, wild, and somehow forever connected to them.